All right, welcome everybody to the first training for College for Seniors at OLLI at UNCA. Today we're going to be going over just some of the basics of using Zoom, sound, audio, and the interface of Zoom. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. So you should see at this point my PowerPoint pop up. Go ahead and get to the beginning here. Wonderful. All right, so getting started with Zoom, audio, sound, renaming, and the ins and outs of the Zoom interface. Just to begin with a little bit of fun, thank you all for going ahead and muting and getting ready to dive right in. We're all really grateful for you sharing your expertise with us, and I definitely want to make sure that we all are feeling comfortable with the technology, and so we're going to start with the real basics. And for some of you, this might be something you already know. And if there's any questions that come up along the way, please definitely keep those in mind, and then we will be addressing those at the end. So to get started, I'm just going to repeat probably some things that you might have heard if you were at the orientation. What is Zoom? Zoom is this platform that we are currently using. It is supported by UNCA, and we're using the UNCA enterprise level Zoom accounts. So what that means is you've got an easy to use, user-friendly video conferencing platform that sort of provides you the tools to run your class successfully online. To begin, it's really important to make sure that you know what equipment you need. A laptop or a PC are going to be your best bet. You can join a Zoom meeting through a mobile device or a tablet, but if you are running a class, you really want to have the full access of a computer. A mobile device just really isn't going to cut it. It'll make it a little bit difficult to have the best experience. A webcam is necessary, and
earlier.
Oh, okay. All good? Are we good?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so a webcam is going to be also a necessary part of teaching online. Most webcams or most laptops come with a webcam and a microphone, but some of you have found that having an external mic or a headset or a webcam or some combination of these will really help your experience. We could go into a lot of depth about sort of setting the scene. You've got your webcam, you've got your microphone. You want to make sure that you are positioning those so that you can be seen and heard by the folks in the class. So you don't want to be out of the frame in the corner. We don't want to be looking up anybody's nose. You don't want to be too far away from your sound capturing device, whether that be a microphone or just your laptop itself, so that folks can't hear you. So make sure you find a situation where you can be seen and heard for your class participants. So when you join a class, you are automatically going to be muted. This is a setting that we've decided to enable for our classes moving forward, just to sort of minimize any disruption. So having your microphone off prevents the doorbell or the barking dog from disrupting the class. So we do recommend that that is a setting that you keep, and of course folks are welcome to decide to mute and unmute when is convenient for them. One important thing to note is that you have to unmute yourself. So if you are joining a class and all of your class participants are muted, they are going to have to be the ones to unmute themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that sort of thing. But first, let's cover the general toolbar. The toolbar is where you're going to find your tools to do things like mute and unmute yourself. This menu bar will look a little bit different depending on what device you're using. If you are using an iPad or an Apple product, Your toolbar might appear at the top of your screen. If you're using an Android device or a PC or just your standard laptop, then you might see this toolbar appear at the bottom of your screen. This image is showing you sort of what you might see depending on the level of permissions that you have for your account. You can see in the left corner there is the microphone, which gives you the option to mute and unmute, the video icon, which will allow you to stop your video, and then you have a little gray caret that is next to those icons, and that will open up further audio and video settings so you can go in and manipulate those settings to fit your needs, and we'll be looking at those shortly in a little more depth. The Participants tab is also a great one to be familiar with. Clicking on that is going to pull up a list of all of the participants in that particular meeting. And now I want to show just a short little video about joining a Zoom meeting with your audio and video, and then we'll deep dive into those various settings. And I might not have shared my audio, so here I am learning my own lesson. We're going to reshare, and there we go.
When you're joining a Zoom meeting, you'll see a video preview pop-up that prompts you to determine whether you'd like to join the meeting with your video enabled or disabled by default. Simply select the option to join into the meeting using the preference you've selected. Joining and configuring your audio and video within a Zoom meeting is quick and easy. If you see the Join Audio icon in the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom meeting window toolbar, simply select the icon and select Join with Computer Audio. You'll also notice there is the option to test your speaker and microphone prior to joining the meeting. However, if you're already connected and others are having issues hearing you or you're having difficulty hearing others, navigate to the up caret to the right of the mute and unmute button, where you can test your speaker and microphone on the fly. When you select Test Speaker and Microphone, you'll be presented with a series of steps. Simply follow the prompts by answering yes or no to connect your audio properly. During a Zoom meeting, you can also start or stop your video at any point by selecting the Start Video icon, like this. Simply select Stop Video to stop your video feed from being shared with others. You can also adjust your audio input and output sources on the fly from the up caret as well. And also you can adjust, if you have multiple web camera sources, you can adjust your web camera source on the fly also.
Great, so let's look a little bit more at those audio and video settings that she just brought up. So looking again to that toolbar, if you were to click the up caret to the right of the microphone icon, you will see a list pop up with some various settings that you can then go in and play with. So for example, you've got the opportunity to test your speakers and microphone. This is really great if you think that you're having any sound issues. Go ahead and run a little test. Also, pulling up your audio settings will then give you more in-depth volume and input manipulation. So to the right, you will see an image that is depicting the settings that will appear when you open up those audio settings. So again, you have the chance to test your speaker, test your mic, change the input and output level, and then really sort of go in and figure out exactly how you want your sound settings to be. This is great too if you're using a headset or a microphone. Usually your computer will recognize those external sound devices right away. And so, for example, when I join a meeting, I plug in my headset into the USB and my Zoom recognizes that and automatically selects that as my microphone and my speaker. However, if that's not how it happens for you, which, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out quite as easily as that. You can go into the audio settings, you can select a microphone, you can select a speaker, and choose between any external devices that you might be using. The same sort of structure goes for video settings as well. So here you have the up caret to the right of the video icon and the option to select video settings. Side note, this is also where you would go for virtual backgrounds, but let's not get crazy. So going into video settings, here you can see you also have the opportunity here to select an external device. If you have a separate camera that you're choosing to use, then you can go ahead and select that from these settings. You can change your ratio, you can do a lot of different things in here. It's even got a fun option to touch up your appearance, which, you know, obviously I have mine selected there, so oops. Let's see, moving forward. Another important feature in Zoom settings is the ability to rename. And this comes up a lot, especially when folks are joining from either a shared device that maybe they're using with a partner that has, you know, they want to switch the name. Or perhaps if you're joining from a lot of Apple products will pop up with, you know, some weird random name, iPad 3076, and you really want in a class to be able to see everyone's name. You want to know who's there. It makes it more personal, and also it's just for making the class easier to run. And of course you want your students to know who you are. So if you come across the need to rename yourself, the way that you're going to do that is two ways. Let's revisit that participants icon in the toolbar that we touched on earlier. If you select that participant icon, what's going to happen is this list of the people in the meeting will pop up. From that list, you'll see in this image here that there's an option when you hover over the name to do a couple of things. If you click the More option, it brings up a little list of those choices. And one of those choices, as you can see, is the option to rename. Once you click Rename, a little box will appear. You know, you put in the name of your choosing and hit OK, and then you're good to go. So again, you're going to find that in the participants icon in your toolbar. The second way to rename yourself is directly through your thumbnail image. So that little picture of you that appears, when you hover over it, you will see the option to mute. There's a little shortcut for muting. And you will also see probably three little dots that when you click them will give you a list of a few more settings. Within those settings, you'll see again the option to rename yourself and follow steps, the next steps. This is a great thing for yourself, but it's also great because as the host of your class or as the co-host of your class, you are able to rename others. And we're going to go a little bit into what being a host means, but for now, it's just important to know that you can change the name of somebody else in the class. So if, you know, iPad 3607 is having trouble renaming themselves, you can take it upon yourself to just go in and type in, you know, Bob. That being said, you also might want to have a profile photo that reflects who you are. So say you are in a class and you're choosing to have your camera off. If you have a profile photo loaded, then this is what your participants are going to see. So it's really nice, especially if you're, you know, wanting to just personalize your account a little bit. And this brings up a good point about having a Zoom account. For most of you here today, you either clicked on the link in the document to join, or you have a Zoom account and you typed in the meeting ID and the password. Either way is fine. There's no better way to do it. But what is important is having that free Zoom account. Again, we will be using OLLI's Zoom licenses to schedule the classes, but having your own account and login is just going to give you access to your own settings, allow you to do your own thing, schedule your own meetings, and also change your profile picture, which is something that you can only do if you have login information. If you are not sure about how to sign up for a free account, reach out to me after this and I can send you some documentation on how to do that. Changing your profile picture can be done in your settings, which we'll go over momentarily, but also remember how you went in and renamed yourself from your thumbnail, clicking that more and then selecting rename. You might find that you also have an edit profile picture option in that same menu. Going into your settings will allow you to do this as well. So once you log into your account on the Zoom web page, then you will go to your profile where you will find an option to edit your profile picture. Another important feature of Zoom is its ability to change layouts. So some of you might have experienced this variety before. For some of you, it might be kind of new, but the main views in layout are full screen, speaker view, and gallery view. So being in full screen just basically means that you have maximized whatever view it is that you have selected. This makes it take over your entire screen and it prevents any other programs from being seen, and you can go into full screen at any time. The two different layouts are active speaker view and gallery view. Active speaker view is typically the default. So when you join a meeting, you'll be seeing one of two things. You're either going to see the video of the person who is speaking, and that video will be the one taking over sort of the largest portion of your screen, with all of the other folks who are in the meeting in a gallery type view, either along the top or along the side, depending on what device you are using. Or you're going to see gallery view, which is a display of all of the thumbnail images of everyone who is in the class in sort of a grid. Depending on your screen, if you're on an iPad, you might only see 9 or 10 in gallery view. If you're using a PC or a laptop, you can see up to 49 participants in this view, and then you have the option to scroll to the next page if you happen to have more than that in your class. And side note, by using the UNCA Enterprise accounts, we don't have the same limitations on the number of folks who can participate in a meeting or the amount of time. So I know that's a question that often comes up. One other thing that's important to mention here is that switching between these two views only impacts your screen. This is not something that's going to change what your participants are seeing. So if you're switching between speaker view and gallery view, that's only impacting you. If your class participants want to switch, they need to do it on their own. Or if you have a preferred method of showing your screen, you can direct your class participants to choose either one, but be prepared to explain it. Gallery view, here's a good example of sort of, what you see. You've got the grid. Again, that toolbar at the bottom might appear somewhere different depending on what product you're using. If you're using an Apple product, it might be at the top. At the top right corner, you see that little option to switch to speaker view. So here we are in gallery view. Clicking that speaker view button in the top corner is going to toggle between the two different views. So this gives you sort of an idea of where you can go. It's not showing you what you are seeing right now, but the option to switch. In speaker view, you can sort of see here how you've got that. Whoever is speaking at the time is the main video that you can see, with that row of thumbnails of everyone else who is in the meeting. The tricky thing with speaker view is that if somebody makes a noise, if they cough, If their dog barks in the background, then their video will be highlighted. Any noise makes that video take preference over the other ones, which brings us back to the importance of keeping microphones muted. So if you are in a group discussion and you really want to focus on whoever's turn it is to speak at that time, it can be very distracting if someone is unmuted and there's an unintended noise in the background that causes their video to be the one that pops up. However, there is a really great trick to sort of bypass that if maybe you have too many participants to keep everyone muted, or maybe you have sort of an open dialogue going on, and that's just really not the best method for you. And that is spotlight video or pin video. So here in this image, you can see again up where the thumbnail videos are. So say that is your video or the speaker who you would like to be featured. Those three little dots pull up your list of settings. And from there, again, we see where we renamed, for example, so it's that same list. You have the option to mute, but you also have the option to spotlight video or pin video. And by spotlighting or pinning, what you're doing is you're highlighting a particular person's video. So, for example, if I am giving a lecture and I want to sort of be in the main view, then I would spotlight my own video. If I have a guest speaker in my class and I'd like everyone to focus their attention on that person, I can spotlight their video. Pinning the video essentially does the same thing. It pins it so that is the main one that is viewed. To unspotlight or unpin, you would go back through that list of settings and click that option again to deselect. The thing is not every participant can do that. So these tools that we're talking about with being able to spotlight, for example, or having the ability to mute and unmute people are tools that can only be used if you are the host or the co-host of your class. And the way that's going to work is the Zoom classroom will be opened by an OLLI staff person or a student tech when the class first begins. And then they will hand off that control by making the instructor either the host or the co-host. And the reason that it varies between the two is really sort of depending on what level of control you A, feel comfortable with, or B, how complicated your class is. For some folks, I know we have a couple of situations where instructors have an assistant, a Zoom assistant in their class who helps manage things like chat or muting folks. You know, they're trying to give their lecture and they can't also be searching through the grid to see who's making a crinkly sound in the background. So having that Zoom assistant function as the co-host gives that person the ability to mute or go ahead and spotlight a video, for example. And if you joined us for the orientation, then you might have heard a little bit about Zoom assistants, but that's something we can go over after the presentation. So just again, sort of revisiting and talking about all the tools that you will have available to you when you are the host or the co-host. Muting all participants is a great example of one of the tools that you don't have just as a regular participant. So, and it is important to note that although you can mute people, they must unmute themselves. So you don't also have the power to unmute them. Similarly, you can stop somebody's video, but you cannot start their video. So something to remember if folks are having some trouble with that function in your class, they will have to learn how to do that because it's a privacy issue. So here we're going to revisit that participants tab. So again, this toolbar is going to be something you want to become really familiar with. Your sound and video settings are all going to reside there. And then that participants tab or icon is also very important because that's one of the ways where you can go in and use these tools that you have as host. So again, we saw this with renaming. You would go into the participants tab, select the option to see more settings, and from there we looked at renaming. As the host or the co-host, you can rename somebody else. Be nice with that power. You can also make somebody the host or the co-host. So if you are teaching a class and you've been made the host, but you realize that your co-host joined a few minutes late, you can go ahead and make that person the co-host. It gives you more functionality, and a lot of that does reside in that participants tab, so it's good to be familiar. I do want to encourage everyone to check out the free and always open Zoom testing site. So this is just a private little meeting where you can go in and test out your camera and your sound equipment as if you were in a real meeting. So you go to this zoom.us /test, and it pulls up just a little meeting where you can go in and sort of pre-test your sound and make sure that your lighting is good and your camera is focused and all that fun stuff that's really important to sort of get set before your class begins. And you're going to hear this a lot from me during these trainings. Simplicity is the theme. If this feels like it was a lot of information at one time, fear not. These tools all become very familiar after you have used them a few times, and it is really crucial that you feel comfortable using these tools. While we can offer some level of support, to be successful in your class, you want to feel comfortable with these basics. So test with friends, test with family, and keep it simple. So don't try to do all the stuff that Zoom can offer. Really, the most important aspect is this connection and this interaction, and you don't need all the fancy tools for that. Do you need good lighting? Perhaps, I would argue so, but that's up to each person. But yeah, keep it simple.